What's up, YouTube? Before I get into the video, let me remind you, if you like my content, hit that like and subscribe button. And also, if you feel the need to support me, hit me up on my Patreon at patreon.com/uncommonramen, capital U, capital R. I do all this in my free time, so any amount of support can help me bring more of this content to you more often. Okay, today we are going to be looking at my take on an Eldrazi deck. It is a little bit different than most Eldrazi decks. I think that when we think Eldrazi, we think Eldrazi Titans. So we're gonna take a different spin. We're looking at Azlask, the Swelling Scourge. This commander costs 3, is a 2/2, and whenever Azlask, the Swelling Scourge, or another colorless creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. And for Wooburg, creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of experience counters you have. Scions and spawns you control gain Indestructible and Annihilator 1 until end of turn. So we're going to do kind of a token swing-wide strat. Let's take a look. As per my previous video, we're just going to read names. I have separated these piles differently. First pile we're going to take a look at is cards that just create scions and spawns. So we're looking at Blister Pod, Brood Monitor, Chittering Dispatcher, Drowner of Truth, which is also a land on the other side, Eldrazi Repurposer, Eldrazi Sky Spawner, Emrakul's Hatcher, Emrakul's Messenger, Eyeless Watcher, Kozilek's Predator, Nest Invader, Rapacious One, Brood Birthing, Call of the Scions, Skittering Invasion, and finally Awakening Zone. So each of these cards, pretty much all they do is create spawns. In one way or another, they will create spawns or scions. Yeah. Next up, we're going to take a look at cards that create spawns but also have other utility. So we're going to see Catacomb Sifter, which not only creates spawns but also allows you to scry when your creatures die. Drowner of Hope creates the spawns but also allows you to use those spawns or scions to tap a creature, in this case scions. Glaring Fleshraker, which whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to each opponent. Propagator Drone, which you can pay to create, in this case spawns, but it gives all your tokens evolve. Spawn Gang Commander, you can sacrifice an Eldrazi to deal 2 damage to any target. Spawnbed Protector, which allows you to do recursion from your graveyard and create spawns. Vile Redeemer is a good way to recover from a board wipe, and has flash. Writhing Chrysalis, which just gets bigger every time you sacrifice Eldrazi. Eldrazi Confluence, which is just a modal card that has the ability to create spawns but also has other things that you can use. Kozilek's Command, another modal card that allows you to create spawns and do other things. Unfathomable Truths, which is a draw spell that allows you to create spawns. Glimpse of the Impossible, which allows you to do impulse draws and can reward you with spawns if you don't use the impulse draws. Growth Spasm, which is a ramp card that allows you to create spawns. Idol of the False Gods, which creates spawns, also acts as a anthem and then can turn itself into an Eldrazi. From Beyond, which creates spawns, and then you can actually sack this to tutor for an Eldrazi. Kozilek's Unsealing creates spawns based on mana value, and also allows you to draw cards based on mana value. And then Path of Annihilation, which creates spawns, repurposes how you use those spawns, and gives you benefits for casting cards that cost 7 or more. Next up, since we're talking about a commander that looks at experience counters, we're going to have a small experience counter package here with Izuri Claw of Progress, which specifically looks for small creatures dying to get experience counters and then gives power based off of that. We have Marin of Clan Neltoth, which is recursion for the number of experience counters and also looks for just things dying on your side. And then we have Minthara, who also looks for things dying, gets ward based on your experience counters, and gives creatures a huge amount of power based on your experience counters. Next up is going to be cost reducers. Herald of Kozilek here, which reduces, all it does is reduce costs. And then we have It That Heralds the End, which reduces costs for things that cost 7 or more, but also acts as an anthem. And then finally we have Urza's Incubator, which just simply reduces costs. And then next up, we're going to look at cards that just were utility in here. We have Eldrazi Displacer for Blink. We have Kozilek the Broken Reality for Anthem and just big body. Sifter of Skulls, which helps you create more spawns when non-tokens die. Sire of Stagnation, which is a card draw engine, but also mills your opponents. Smothering Abomination gives you sort of a sack outlet, not that you need one, but is just a 4/3 with flying. Ulalek Fused Atrocity, which is a cool way to copy Eldrazi spells and ability triggers. Eldrazi Monument, which acts as a anthem that gives flying and indestructible, but you have to sacrifice a creature each turn to keep it in play. Forsaken Monument, which acts as an anthem, increases the amount of colorless mana your colorless permanents, how much colorless mana a permanent can produce when it produces colorless mana, and also when you cast colorless spells you gain life. Herald's Horn, which acts as a cost reducer, but also allows you the possibility of drawing extra cards per turn. Idol of Oblivion, which allows you to draw cards and also can turn itself into a 10/10. Skull Clamp, which allows you to do card draw with some of the smaller creatures. Anointed Procession, which doubles the amount of tokens that ETB. Echoes of Eternity, which is kind of like a Panharmonicon for colorless abilities. And then you can also copy colorless spells. Sorry. Kindred Discovery, which also acts as a card draw for attacking creatures. And then finally, Parallel Lives, which doubles the number of tokens that ETB. Next up is going to be the removal suite. We have Null Elemental Blast, Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, Warping Whale, which is a weaker removal, and then Ugin the Ineffable, which also acts as a cost reducer, as well as a manifesting engine. We have Ramp, starting with Farseek, Arcane Signet, Chromatic Lantern, Soul Ring, and Talisman of Curiosity. The last of the non-land cards are just going to be utility cards that were put in here to fill out the space. We have Eldritch Immunity, which helps to protect your creatures. It can be used as an overload to protect all of your creatures. And then All Is Dust as a board wipe to get rid of colored permanents. Next up, we're going to take a look at non-basic lands. We've got a Darkar Wastes, Battlefield Forge, Breeding Pool, Brushland, Cascading Cataracts, Cavern of Souls, Caves of Koilos, Command Tower, Corrupted Crossroads, Eldrazi Temple, Exotic Orchard, Karplusan Forest, Llanowar Wastes, Overgrown Tomb, Path of Ancestry, Reliquary Tower, Ruins of Oron Reef, Secluded Courtyard, Shivan Reef, Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, Spawning Bed, Sulphur Springs, The World Tree, Tomb of the Spirit Dragon, Tranquil Landscape, Twisted Landscape, Unclaimed Territory, Underground River, and Yavimaya Coast. And then finally, we're going to take a look at basics. We have 2 forests, 1 island, and 1 swamp. So that is the Azlask, the Swelling Scourge deck tech. Mostly what this is going to be is trying to get as many spawns and scions into play as possible, and then just kind of taking advantage of the ability. Azlask, when he dies, he gives you experience counters whenever any colorless creature you control dies. He gives you experience counters. All of the rest of the experience counter suite also sees when creatures die to get experience counters, and they give various effects. Minthara gives a great deal of power depending on the number of experience counters you have. You get Marin that helps you recur things. We're going to do that so that we can use the Wooburg ability to just overwhelm our opponents with these scions, which is usually pretty opposite of what we would normally do with spawns and scions, because typically we would just sacrifice them to cast some of our bigger things like Ulamog, Emrakul, stuff like that, but you'll notice that I don't have those in here. It's not something that I intended on running. So that is Azlask, the Swelling Scourge. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. That's it, guys. Until next time. Peace.